This is the ZRO Delta Venator DM-20 rifle chambered in 223 Wild. This is a full factory rifle that can be used as a competition rig or a designated marksman role. With its heavy tapered 20-inch barrel, you're going to maximize the velocity and accuracy of your chosen 223 ammunition, and it is loaded with premium option, but doesn't necessarily come with a premium price tag as compared to some of its peers and others in its class. Now that is a spicy looking little number right there, the ZRO Delta Venator DM-20. Now, if you're not familiar with my channel or me, like gray and orange are my color, it's my vibe, just means love to me, right? My favorite colors, all in one combo. Now, I've been talking to ZRO Delta and US Optics for quite some time. I met them at SHOT Show last year, and I really wanted to get this rifle in and check this out, especially once I saw that they had actually made this in this color pattern because it just fit my vibe, fit what I liked. But somebody else that showed up at SHOT Show was able to actually get that thing before I could. I believe his name was Don Trump Jr. And I didn't recognize that until later when we were at a party and we were talking about this rifle. And he's like, oh, no, that's coming home with me. So I guess if you're gonna get trumped, it's best to get trumped by a Trump if that's how you wanna think about it. But they were cool enough to build another one just like it and send it out so we could give it a good go here on the channel. Now, for the past year or year and a half, I've been diving deeper and deeper into the more long range or kind of intermediate range stuff. And there's been a few big takeaways from me besides, was the rifle built right? Does it have a good barrel? Does it have good parts? First of one of which being is you got to give the barrel some time and some rounds. That thing is going to gain accuracy as you put rounds through it. And it seems to be for gas setups like this, ARs, right around like 500 to 1,000 seems to be where they really tighten up and they really speed up on the chronograph. So you're maximizing that ammunition. The second thing is going to be, you better have a bipod that's the right height for you, right? Especially if you're a bigger barrel chested kind of guy, you're real thick up top or something, or you've got a little bit of a tactical tummy. You need to be able to elevate that thing off the ground. Otherwise it's going to be a very long and painful day out there in the range. I've been using the AccuTac stuff, awesome bipods, brought a couple of those from my boys over at Brownells. And the third one is going to be ammunition choice. Ammunition is going to make or break what that rifle can actually do. Again, as long as it was built right and all that stuff. I've been running the Badlands stuff non-stop, whether it's the 75, 77, or the 85 grains. It's the most consistent and accurate stuff I have found with all of the problems I've had over the past year, almost 2 years now with ammunition. That stuff has not let me down. Now, if you are new to the channel and you see anything that I'm talking about here today that you want to do some research on, I'll have a build list. It'll be the first link in the description down below. And if you're watching this on TV, I'll put a QR code up here. You can scan that, check everything you see here today out, and of course, do all of your own research. And there's probably some ways over there to not pay full galactic credits for stuff. And a big thank you to Brownells. It's because of Brownells that I'm able to keep up the website, the build list, all that information over there. And of course, feed these things. They've been a massive supporter of the channel, and they're my first stop when I'm looking for something. Now, you probably heard me say you've got to give the barrel some rounds and some time, and I want to explain that to you because it's very important, especially with this rifle. So the first time I took this thing out, I was doing the chronograph results, obviously zeroing it in. I was kind of seeing what ammunition this thing might like, since it is a 20-inch barrel, and every barrel can tell you a different story, whether it's 77 grain, 75 grain, 85 grain, whatever you're going to shoot, it might like one more than the other. And after I got that zero, I took this rifle through the range of targets I had access to that day, which was out to 950 yards. I was able to get hits all the way out to there, but I did notice, and I will throw up the target out here, that it wasn't as tight as I was expecting, and I checked the chronograph, and my data wasn't as fast as I was expecting, especially for a 20-inch barrel. Now, fast forward after a couple more range trips, and of course a couple good cleanings, when I took the rifle back out for the third time, I noticed my zero was very high as compared to where it was prior. rechecked the chronograph, redid those zero groups, and long and behold, this thing had sped up immensely and all of the groups had tightened up. So that's what I mean by you got to give the barrel some rounds sometimes, and of course, a good cleaning. So on the 75 grain stuff, I picked up about 120 feet per second. And on the 85 grain stuff that I was shooting, I picked up about 110 feet per second. And then of course, my groups tightened way up. Same rifle, same conditions, same setups, but everything got much, much cleaner on the groups and much, much faster. And now this is where everyone goes full ham in the comments, talking about the best barrel break-in procedure in the world. All I can tell you is shoot it, clean it, don't overheat it, and your barrel's probably going to do just fine. There are dozens of different break-in procedures out there. If your manufacturer has a specific one, just go ahead and follow it. What makes the ZRO Delta Venator DM-20 any different than other rifles out on the market? So starting with the upper and lower receiver, these are 70-75 billet machined aluminum, and they are tight, and I mean aggressively tight fitting, which is good for a more precision minded build. It will have some very good looking machine work on here and give it a very bold look, although that's completely aesthetic. If you like it, you like it. Now, one thing you'll probably notice right off the bat is that porting in the upper receiver right there, which allows gas to bleed off as that bolt cycles to the rear. It will have a radiant ambi safety selector, an ambidextrous charging handle, a thrill grip, a Magpul PRS light stock, which is a great option. The trigger guard is integral to the lower receiver. It has a 17.76 inch LVOA rail, which gives you plenty of room for any accessory you need. And that rail has a full length ARCA rail across the bottom, making putting a bipod on here or putting this on a tripod and mounting it and accomplishing a good balance super easy. And capping off the end of this thing is that big zero brake to handle what is kind of minimal recoil out of a 20-inch barrel with a rifle length gas system. And finishing out the top of that rifle is going to be the US Optics Foundation 17X. That's a 3-17. And I have to say the glass on this thing is exceptionally clear, just like every other US Optics scopes I've come across over the past many years since I've been into shooting. And I do have to say, I've always been a huge fan of the look of the US Optics stuff. Everything from the design of the tube, especially the ocular end, then of course those big monster turrets on there, which are super slick looking, super easy to see and use out there when you're making quick adjustments. And that thing was just solid in every way, going from 0 all the way out to 950 yards. And if you guys want to see like dedicated reviews on some of the US Optics stuff that I got in, just let me know in the comments down below. Now up in the guts of the ZRO Delta DM-20, we've got a Hyperfire designated marksman trigger. We have the ZRO enhanced Carpenter 158 bolt with billet extractor and an enhanced carrier. The buffer system on here is a TACCOM 3-stage combined with that rifle and gas system. Just makes this thing very pleasant to shoot. And then finally, that barrel is a 20-inch heavy profile continuous taper that is button rifled, has a 1-in-8 twist rate, and is chambered in 223 Wild. Getting into that accuracy, no doubt in my mind that this is a sub-MOA rifle, as long as the end user is competent and capable of shooting sub-MOA, especially after a good solid break-in. So all the testing I did was from the prone at 100 yards for the ZRO results, and I shot 7-round groups. So that first group I did the first day out there, like I said, it was fairly slow and the groups were fairly wide. But after a few hundred rounds, going back out there, cleaning everything out, it seemed to be that this thing tightened up immensely. And I tried multiple different ammunition types. I tried some FC262 that I found laying in the closet that I've had for like well over a decade. I used 75 grain Badlands. I used 85 grain Badlands. I used some 62 grain cheap Igman imported stuff, and then some 65 grain Atlanta Arms soft point stuff. And you can kind of see this barrel is starting to tell us what ammunition it's gonna like. You can see those groups. And then I'll post up some more photos here where you can actually see where I placed a quarter over the groups. So I had a couple flyers in there, but as you can see, it got much tighter. Chronograph results got higher. And obviously, if you're doing what you need to do behind it, this is sub-MOA all day. I'm not the best, most accurate person, but this thing did its job good enough to where I did some, I guess, faster shots out to 750. I was hitting a 950 yard target that's about 12 inches. So overall, a very solid build for somebody at my skill level. Obviously 950 yards is past the max effective range of a 223 or 5.56, but that's the fun zone and I like to party, right? So 750 and in, this thing is extremely capable. In fact, 500 and in, 600 and in, it's actually pretty hard to miss with this thing as long as your data and your wind calls on and it's not like 15 to 20 mile an hour craziness going out there. In fact, at the 725-ish target that was out there, I was able to do some fairly quick double taps on it, and the thing just performed beyond the expectations, because 725 shooting that fast isn't really that easy, even though the targets are, I think, like 18 inches wide at that point. Now that is a lot of good stuff. Everything from the rifle build to that scope on there from US Optics, but nobody gets a free pass. You guys all understand that here in the channel. So did I have any problems? Were there any issues that came up? And of course, would I change anything on this rifle, especially at its price point? So functionality, it was flawless. I did run into a couple failure to lock back on the last round, but I was able to narrow that down to my like 20-year-old 20 round USGI mag that needs a new spring. So all the other mags I tested from either 20 or 30 rounders, whether they were Lancer, PMag, or C products, or some other aluminum ones, all of them functioned flawlessly in there. Everything was good to go. So functionality wise, she's rock and roll. The one thing that I would change, and maybe this is a personal preference thing for me, is even though that Hyperfire EDT trigger is a really good trigger, it's one of the better triggers out there that's not like 300 bucks or something. But when I'm thinking about a kind of precision build like this, I want a 2-stage trigger with something like a 2.5 pound or a 2 pound final pull. This is a single stage trigger and it's about 3.5 to 4 pounds. Again, that's not bad at all, but I'm so used to, when I'm behind something built like this, having a 2-stage with like a 2 pound final break, that it kind of messed me up a little bit. I know that might be nitpicking, but that's really about the only thing that I say could be different. Now, aesthetically, if this is not your look, right, the gray and orange, it comes in standard black. In fact, if you want all of the colors and everything, that's an upgrade. You're gonna have to pay for that. But the factory MSRP here is $19.99. So when you take a look at what this thing is, how it's equipped, obviously without the US Optics scope on there, I don't think that's a bad price at all for how this thing comes equipped, and especially for how it ran. If you are looking to get into competition or you want a DM style rifle, I really don't think you can go wrong buying a setup like this, especially if you don't want to build your own or you don't want to rely on your buddy that hopefully can build you an appropriate rifle. I think it's a great place to start, and then as you gain confidence and you gain skill and you gain more desire to go further, then you get into that big 308 or 6.5 PRC or 6.5 Creedmoor, 6 Creedmoor, whatever you want. The sky is the limit with ammunition these days. There's something out there for everybody. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Venator DM-20 right here. Keep doing it on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And I'll see you all on the next one.